Tonight on the American Forked Podcast.
The person who got killed, does anyone know if he was a good
That
person?
statement you just made was, if you're going to stop sex slavery, you have to open up
Top
prostitution.
10 books sold this week in units. Dr. Seuss has got 3 books.
A lot of people are probably like, oh, they're getting rid of their books. I
Any
better buy some.
non-Mormon person, that just sounds so weird.
How come Disney could just apologize for their racism by covering it up?
People are interested in the pacifier, the thing that makes them feel good for the moment.
I'm sorry about talking about like the whole rise of Asian hate in America right now, including Dr. Seuss, including the shootings and things like that.
Welcome to the American Forked Podcast. We're a group of guys who obviously, if you've been listening, we have different opinions. We think each other are stupid idiots, and we love each other too. And that's how the whole world should work. So, my name's Phil. I'll be the host today.
Hi, Phil.
What's up? With us
Phil.
is Jeff.
Hey, Phil.
Jeff Rod is a large American who likes guns, women, if his woman is his wife.
So,
And,
woman.
And has a beautiful, fair complexion.
Thank you. That's me.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I'm known as a fat kid now. So let's go on.
Tyler is here with us tonight. He's having a good time, having a drink. He can bench press 475 pounds.
I wish. That actually sounds really bad. Terrible.
and he's really into Legos.
Thank you. Yep, I'm Tyler. All that's true, but the bench press.
Devin is here. Devin is a internet wizard extraordinaire. He's got a super cool jacket, like he's about to go backpacking, and he's rocking some glasses and a beard.
And I forgot to bring your tools. Sorry, Phil.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Just leave them in your dad's garage.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Just leave him there. Jake is here. Jake has white headphones on and a gray hat and a cigarette in his mouth.
It's actually a green hat, and it says Rise of the Resistance.
It was a great
Is that
ride.
one of them Star Wars-em things?
It is, yeah.
Trent's here clanging some Legos. What's up, Trent? Clang, clang, clang. Trent's assembling some Legos. How are they, Trent?
They're Legos.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm glad.
It's in pieces.
Oh,
You have a way with words,
I'm
Trent.
so glad they're Legos.
They feel good when you
Yeah.
step on them.
Cool. Okay, go
Yeah,
back.
I'm tired of Sydney telling me I'm mansplaining something, so just go.
Exactly. Go back to being on mute.
Did you introduce Bolt?
If
I
you
wasn't
want.
paying attention.
Boulter is maybe here. No, I don't think he's
He's
on.
driving. Yeah, he's here.
I'm mostly just going to listen, so I don't think I'll participate that much.
He's that little gray square over there.
He's
Why?
he's Ubering right now.
You were
Yeah.
the best host of this podcast so far. So
You were great. You just took charge, just told everyone to shut their faces and quit interrupting
And you just mansplained everything to us for 2 hours.
everything.
and I was okay with that.
Good job. All right, local news. Pleasant Grove had a shootout the other night. If you guys heard about this.
Yep.
Some kind of shots were fired and there was a standoff for about 6 hours. They told residents, maybe our resident Jake can tell us if you were told to be on lockdown or what happened with that.
This occurred about 7 blocks north of my house. And so, no, it was like a 1 block area around 500 North.
7 blocks north of your house is the ghetto of PG. Ish.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it was
this week.
7 blocks. It was this week for sure.
You think some really smart person in the future is going to piece everything we say together? 7 blocks? Okay.
And know
and he was
exactly where
also
we're at.
west of Smith.
They'd have to be smart,
Okay.
and they'd also have to care.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
And
unlikely.
then we'd
To
be
come
like, "Oh,
after
cool,
us.
good job."
Yeah.
Because I'll say my address
you
on the phone
found us.
over the air right now.
Now come on in. But anyway, you didn't hear any shots. You weren't told to stay home.
Just notifications from people around me.
Was it? What was it related to? Was it?
They don't know. They might know now, but they've said something about something.
He barricaded himself in a house after shooting at people outside. He was probably hopped up on something.
Guys were crazy, basically. I don't like the term barricaded in the house because that implies they put dressers in front of the door and all. I think he probably just
Sandbags.
shut the door and maybe locked it. They consider that barricading. But if I was going to barricade myself in the house, there would be couches up against the door,
Bookshelves, of course.
yeah, dressers, kind of like Beauty and the Beast.
So you'd
Right.
rather say he locked himself in his house.
Yeah, he walked into his
He
house
walked
and
in
deadbolted it.
and didn't come out.
Deadbolted his door.
Yeah.
He closed the
deadbolted it.
windows and didn't come out.
Yeah, but the door was a solid core door.
Yeah, so tragic part of this is one of the officers that was on the way responding to this thing struck and killed a young man driving a car, or T-boned his car, I guess you'd say.
It was a bad accident.
That is terrible.
That actually happened not too far from where we are now. But anyway, so a little bit of tragedy locally. Wish the family well, and hope that standoff ended in a court proceeding. Question mark?
This is awesome of you to really start the podcast with a really cool story like this, where someone died, and it's really actually sad.
Was the person who got killed? Does anyone know if he was a good person or just happened to fucking die?
Probably a bad
Maybe he's a
person.
piece of shit, and they did the world a favor.
Maybe.
That's for God to decide, Trent.
God and Trent.
Trent will decide.
You, I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of person he was.
Moving a little bit wider to state news, the governor has announced that he's going to be lifting the mask mandate, but is keeping the mask mandate in schools, which I was pretty confused about.
It seems dumb.
I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, the CDC, aren't they shortening the social distancing
Yep. Today
to 3 feet?
Today it reduced to 3 feet
3
with
feet
masks.
with a mask.
With masks.
Yeah,
of
and
course.
Is that Utah?
No,
The
CDC.
See- oh, okay.
and plexiglass shields and hats
I
that
can't
cover
hear
your
anybody.
head like a bee's nest.
And
You
like
can't hear?
Yeah.
a mister at all times spitting out Clorox bleach.
Yeah, you just have to wiggle that cable probably.
You got to wiggle it a little.
They're
Wiggle.
they're $10 headphones.
So you can stand 3 feet from people as long as you have a mask on and you have Clorox misting in your area, and then you're safe, right?
Yeah, so-
you got to inject Clorox in.
Oh, and eat light bulbs.
So this is what I really don't get is kids.
Can we have sex yet?
No.
Wait,
No,
what
still
is your
not?
wife telling you?
Is she saying
Thought
this?
that-
So
Sorry, we can't.
Oh, it's COVID.
I thought that's what
is she
Anthony Fauci
trying
said.
to avoid sex with you? Is that what's happening?
Got to wait till 2022.
Not last night.
We're going to clear up some words.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, do you know what a lockdown is? Because it has nothing to do with the bedroom. Is your wife saying that it's locked down, can't touch? No, it's
Yeah,
been since
that's-
March last
COVID.
year.
I can't touch her. or
I have a
anything.
feeling you're being duped.
And masks the whole time.
Ooh, getting kinky.
Masks the whole time they don't have sex.
Yep. Exactly.
Seems awkward.
So am I weird though in thinking
Yes.
that kids am I wrong about this? Kids
Yeah.
don't get it and don't spread it.
Right.
So why would they be the only people that would still have a mandate?
Well, I don't think that's true that they don't get it and don't spread it. They're just less likely to get it and less likely to spread it.
Far less.
Yeah.
Way less. Like
Wait, no, I thought
infinitesimally.
I thought a lot of the outbreaks, at least in Utah, were all like in school base. Like,
So a kid
High
can
schools.
get it and can spread it. So a kid can get it at school and could take
Right.
it home and give it to his grandma or something like that.
so
It's
why
except
wouldn't
that-
we?
possible.
So according to this mandate, why wouldn't we want them to have masks or whatever?
So the reason is because the CDC has just come out and said that it's perfectly safe for kids to be back in school, and perfectly safe for teachers to be in school, even if they haven't been vaccinated. And they're saying because the evidence shows kids do not get the disease and they do not spread it to adults or from adults.
They don't. It's less likely.
Well, they use the terminology they don't. It's a generalization.
I don't think they're actually saying that.
Well, yeah, I just think, at least from what I've read and understood, like the widespread of stuff, or the widespread of COVID has happened in schools. Like more so than gyms, more so than like
No,
supermarkets.
it has
High schools and colleges, I think, yes.
Yeah,
But I don't know
colleges,
about
I think.
elementaries.
We're,
So-
we're,
well,
ta-
I guess
we're
that's the
talking
point.
about like under 14, 15. Like
Gotcha. Okay.
Under the age where they're not vaccinating kids right now of that age, just because it's not an age that there's any kind of danger for. So that's really my, like, if you're going to eliminate a mask mandate for everybody but the people who are least likely to get COVID or spread COVID, why? I mean, it doesn't make sense to
But the
me.
mandate extends to the high school, right?
Why, Spencer? Why?
So maybe that's it. Maybe they're like schools in general, but they should clarify and say elementary schools at the very least should be ready to go.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Yeah. Here's a question: when the mask mandate
It's
gets,
because kids are ugly.
that's true. We want to hide
yeah.
their faces.
They don't brush their teeth in the morning.
Yeah.
Mine
we know
don't
from
unless I
experience.
yell at them.
That's so. Here's a question: is that when the mask mandate is released and ended, they're saying that they want they're encouraging businesses to still require it, right? What are your guys' attitude? I mean, I personally think that I'm going to get as much away with not wearing a mask as I can, and I'll wait until people tell me I have to. I'll be that dick, but and that's how I feel like I'm going to treat this once the mandate has been changed.
So Governor Spence Governor Cox did go over that. He said basically, don't be an idiot. If the business requires it, wear a mask. Don't get in their face and don't be an idiot. But
I don't think I ever would do that, but I would definitely take note. Like when the mandates first started, Home Depot was really, really, really strict about it.
Yeah, they were.
And Lowe's was not. And so I just kept going to Lowe's all the time. I just quit going to Home Depot.
and no more Costco.
So that'd be the same thing. I never created a scene or anything, but if I walked in and someone said, "Hey, put a mask on," I'd pull it out of my pocket and put it on. But I wasn't
show
going to
them
go
your
back
sidearm?
there, right? No, my front arm.
So then what's wrong with you wearing, like, what's wrong with wearing a mask?
So I don't think it has anything to do with what's wrong or right about it. It is a right to, it's not mandated to not do it. It's a private decision. Now the decision falls on the companies, and I can choose to support the
But
companies
what does
or
it
not.
hurt you wearing a mask?
It doesn't hurt me. I never said it did.
But you're not going to. So you're
Right.
not going to because of...
I don't want to.
So
Because you just want to. Okay.
I don't like diapers
so
on my
the
face.
so the CDC, like, they've never said that people have to wear masks, right? They've always encouraged people to wear masks.
I don't think the CDC can even do that.
They don't have the
Yeah,
authority
they
to.
can highly recommend it, but they can't set rules, regulations, or laws.
I think they actually can, because they were talking about early on in the pandemic, in a pandemic, quote unquote, they actually have a lot of authority to do things like that, like shut the whole country down, which is what they did.
But I don't think the
early on.
CDC shut the country down.
They're more of an advisory.
Yeah,
kinda,
they make recommendations, and the president can do certain things. States can do certain things.
No, I think the CDC actually has a power to.
I don't think so, because if you look at a lot of verbiage that happens with businesses and everything, it's according to CDC recommendations, we're going to do this.
Also, for sure, what I know is when things shut down, that was not the CDC saying nationwide things are shutting down. That was state by state. Every state said, yeah, we're going to shut down. And you even saw it happened at different times.
And maybe the CDC is the wrong. There's a government agency, though. Maybe it's the infectious disease something. One of those agencies has some power, and like
I could see that because I'm watching the documentary "The Stand" by Stephen King, and they definitely
they just shut everything right down.
Wait, the new one or the old one?
the new one, and it's actually really, really good.
I've watched
new
all
one?
of it. It is really good. I like it
I
so
watched
far.
the one in the 90s.
There's a new one.
It's a miniseries on CBS. CBS? Yeah.
But it's by Stephen King?
Well, based off a novel by Stephen King.
You know how like everything nowadays are getting like remodernization as far as that. So they did the same thing with The Stand. It's like 9 episodes long.
Oh, it was so good. Other local news. We missed this a few weeks ago, but it's really interesting. I thought there was like a big sex trafficking ring that was broken up here in Utah Valley. Like a bunch of massage parlors apparently were doing happy ending massages, and the Asian women who were quote unquote imported to perform these actions were being trafficked.
Trent, were you upset that the punch cards are no longer valid there now?
Yeah, I think it's stupid because if you're going to start breaking those up, you need to make prostitutes legal.
Wait, what?
Because some of those bitches, they really want that hand job.
So wait, do they have an app to keep track of your punch card stuff, or is it an actual physical punch card?
Hold it.
So wait.
It's in my other car, but yeah.
I want to clarify. So that statement you just made was, if you're going to stop sex slavery, you have to open up prostitution first in order to stop sex slavery.
Yeah. If you're going to legalize marijuana, you got to legalize marijuana.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
So, like, if you're gonna,
It makes sense to
if
me.
you're gonna bust like a cartel marijuana growing farm under the ground,
I'm saying if somebody really wants to be a prostitute, which there are plenty of girls that is their value,
And guys.
and men, you would probably know. Thank you.
you mean Tyler?
If that's what they want to do, never met that guy. If that's what
I'm
you
right
want
here.
to do, then why should we make that illegal?
Well,
if two agreeing parties.
But this isn't
How's that
two
different than
agreeing
a first
parties. This is saying that these people were actually brought over from other countries, like actual sex slaves.
You're right. That's not what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about they need to legalize it for those people who do want to do it.
And we can't let the sex slaves go until it's legal for you to
Yeah.
get prostitutes.
and it's not legal, and it's not,
Yes, I'm trying to relate this exactly. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
and it's not legal in Utah. That's what you're saying.
Prostitution's not legal.
Prostitution's not legal anywhere.
Well, it's legal in
Yeah, it is.
what
There's
is
a
it?
couple counties in
Prim?
Vegas or in
Nevada,
North of
Just-
Vegas.
Yeah.
I think
no,
Reno,
every
right?
county except
No, not Reno, Phil.
Clark.
Yeah, so there's
Not Clark County.
Clark County that Vegas is in, and then whatever Reno's in. No, Vegas is in.
Vegas is in Clark County.
Yeah, Clark County.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
so
legal
it's not
there.
legal in Vegas because you got to drive like 40 miles outside
Yeah,
of Vegas.
it's like
but there's plenty of places
Prim
it's
or
legal.
something like that, right?
Yeah. No, Prim is.
It's Prim.
Prim is Clark County, I think.
Actually,
Okay, well, here's my,
anyways.
I don't know.
Here's my question
It's,
to-
no, Prim is right on the border. It's not legal.
here's
There.
my question to the straight guys in the room, which is everyone but me.
Which ones?
How
All of
easy is it to find a prostitute?
Never tried.
Anyone know
I can
that?
give you I'll give you a website right now where to go.
Because I can give you a website right now where to go to find a gay prostitute
in
or a gay escort.
in Utah.
Well, it's like
Is it
you
like-
I'll give you a
search an
website
area.
right
It's
now
like
where to go.
Tinder. It's like Tinder for prostitutes.
Philip.
What?
Philip. Pull up eros.com.
I don't think so.
Don't do it. I can't believe this is what we're doing on the show.
The gay one is pretty straightforward. It's just rentmen.com.
That is
And
creative.
essentially, they're selling it as an escort service, right?
Yeah, an escort service. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that if I type those letters in that Trent said, that my temple recommend melts. So
At least burst into flames.
I was actually looking for some laborers, and I think I
Invalidates.
came across rent men by accident. So just some day workers. I was trying to find a
It's
guy.
Not, I mean,
Is that what you
you're
told
still
your
hiring
wife?
somebody.
Do you guys do drywall? Oh yeah.
Jeff's like on the website for like 30 minutes. He's like, it's just dick pics on here.
I don't
Like,
get
You're
it.
like going through it. You're just like, you look fit.
How
Wanna
can I
come do some drywall?
This guy's doing electrical work.
How can I figure out if he's a good worker just based on his dick alone?
Oh, they have a-
I
He's
don't
holding
understand.
some sort of power tool. I'm sure he's
I'm gonna,
handy in
I'm
one
gonna
way or
click
the
the
other.
Latino tab because they're really good drywallers. And that's just a fact, not racist.
it's because of their height.
Wait, so I didn't know. Wow.
It's true.
You know they have to
Wait, I
drywall
didn't know that,
ceilings
like,
too.
The sex slave, whatever you were calling it or whatever, they included massage parlors. Like people, like that's
That's what the
Yeah,
thing is,
so-
right?
Right,
They're
so
saying-
that's what they're saying, and I was a little bit surprised. Utah Valley, the happy bubble,
right.
four
Linden of all places,
sex trafficking rings.
where nothing happens ever.
Yeah, they
If you drive
rolled right
by
in there and
a-
busted them.
If you drive by a strip mall that has a neon sign that says massages that's open after 8 p.m., just understand that's what's happening in there. Because you guys are too dumb to know, don't fucking drag the rest of us into it.
What?
What's happening?
Oh my
I thought it was just like you got home from work, had some dinner, you're tired, took
You
a
need a
shower,
foot massage.
go get a massage.
My lower
Right.
back has been acting up. I just
Who wants a massage before 8 p.m. anyway?
Yeah, geez.
Your wife's like, it's COVID. You can't touch me.
Right. I need a massage.
Go get a massage.
I don't know what state it was in, but someone recently went into several of these massage parlors and shot the place up.
Yeah.
And it's been on the news lately. I guess 6 Asian ladies had died, and
It was,
a couple white kids or
in-
white people.
Is in California?
I don't know,
not
but
California.
it's really
Somewhere on the
funny.
east,
and
maybe?
this
I
is
can't
my
remember.
2 cents. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but what I keep hearing reported is it was a racial hate crime. It was like they're basically trying to pin Trump of like he fostered and planted the seeds of like the China virus, or Jake would say it better. But-
Atlanta.
yeah,
It's
so
Atlanta, yeah.
they're
right,
trying
Atlanta.
to pin it on it being a hate crime, which is funny because you have some interesting things happening in the news, like the whole Dr. Seuss Chinese thing, and then they're trying to say that, and they literally interviewed the guy that took the gun in and killed these people and said, like, why did you do it? And he basically, his answer was, I'm a sex addict, and he's basically like a drug addict, like shooting the drug dealer. Like he felt like he was going to put a stop to it by killing the people that were out there doing it.
So
and that's why he said he did it.
It was 8 Asian women. And so I kind of I mean, who knows?
It was a massage parlor.
This guy is it was different locations too, right? Like he didn't just do it three locations.
I think so.
So like I kind of understand not believing him. Like he says it's not racially motivated, but he goes to 3 different locations and kills only Asian women.
Now, I don't think the only Asian women is true. I think there's
there was
2
more?
white,
Yeah, there were two other ones
people
that were not.
but they're not promoting it so much.
What does the news say? Does the
They
news,
must be right.
Well,
Just
I mean, what are
kidding.
you looking
I
at?
know.
What news source?
The news. I saw a couple articles about it, and they were peddling the race thing.
This thing, this article, which is NBC News, only is mentioning Asian women. Doesn't say anything else.
See, and I don't know what to think. It's one of those things where it's like, you no matter where you hear it from, you have to take their word. So I'm hearing it was just Asians. I'm hearing it was a mixture. Who knows? I don't know.
And if it was a mixture, maybe that's different. If it was only Asian women, I would be more inclined to say, it's not like no one's ever lied before. This guy could just be lying.
Luckily, we have a professional online. Trent, are there actually other people than just Asians that work at these places?
According to a friend that has gone to these sorts of things, yeah, there's all sorts. What do you mean? Like Asians only have the hand and a stroke for it? What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, if we just look at
massage
it, like
parlors.
traditionally speaking, Asian women has been sexualized their entire whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Even within their own culture,
Right.
geishas and all that.
It's
Yeah.
all that
No.
kind of stuff. So
If you don't know anyone who's gone to like China, if you get done at work, like after work, it's normal for you to leave after work and go get like this type of a massage. It is very normal in China to do this for like that's what business people do.
Especially during COVID when you can't touch your wife.
Right.
Anyway, who knows if it's racially motivated or not. I have heard that this guy is claiming that it's not, and now the police department is saying it's not racially motivated, but they're basing that on the guy is saying
Right.
it
Yeah.
wasn't
My
racially
guess
motivated.
that if he was a racist murderer, why would he lie about it? Like if he went and killed people, why would he lie
Like,
about it?
once you're already caught,
The thing was,
why not tell the truth? Yeah.
I think the damning evidence was he had like 6 copies of Dr. Seuss books in his car.
But it was all to think that I did it on Mulberry Street.
Yep.
And a MAGA hat on.
All of it. That was it.
Is that one of the ones that was?
That's the one that has
Removed?
the picture of a stereotypical Asian with like the conical hat or whatever.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and they cut it.
And they cut it literally because there's one page with one picture of a stereotypical
I own
Asian.
one, and I think it's about equivalent to Bitcoin right now in value.
We own one as
It's
well.
like a Twinkie when Hostess went out.
Yeah.
Oh really? You have a Mulberry Street one?
Yeah.
I heard that you couldn't even buy them.
So are you upset by that,
Upset by Dr. Seuss being canceled.
or annoyed, or whatever? This book was canceled.
I mean,
Well,
I
it
actually have
was-
2 copies, so I don't really care.
It
that
was
much.
the publisher that removed
Yeah.
it. It wasn't.
So
It
my,
wasn't a
so
cancel
my
culture
understanding
thing.
is this Asian person, has chopsticks, eating
Yeah.
rice,
Yep, and a conical hat
And a conical
squinty
hat.
eyes.
and I'm not getting it. Like that. There's a
they're-
lot of Asian people.
Well,
right?
it's
They're saying it's too stereotypical.
yeah, and
it's
it's
Satirical.
satirical. Thank you.
Yeah.
Satirical about it. It's like the Peter Pan song, "Why Is the Red Man Red?"
Right.
Like that's never played
that
on
movie.
any Disney
that
whatever.
movie.
So it's the same thing.
Drawing an Asian person looking like an Asian person is not satirical.
No, but
Well-
they're not in. Well, agreed, but not in the way that they do it.
This one is actually like if you look at the image, it's definitely like
Jeff's
a
got it.
satirical, stereotypical Asian person. But it's still the question is that bad?
in our current environment that could be considered very sensitive.
Yeah.
And
But here's my thing about it, and we kind of touched on this a little bit ago. I don't remember if we were recording, but to me, it was a smart move. In my opinion, it's a smart move on the Dr. Seuss group because it wasn't originated by a bunch of push from social media.
Right.
It wasn't actually really attacked and said, you got to remove these things. It was actually the idea came about from within the publishing group. And what their motivations are, we can only speculate unless we talk to them. But I'll tell you what did happen as a result of this is that Dr. Seuss is like 5 of the top 20 best-selling books for the last 2 weeks now. And they're selling insane amounts of books because they decided to do this. And a lot of people are like, I want to get a copy of these things before I can't get them
So you're saying
anymore.
that their ulterior motive to this was to like drive more sales for it?
It's an idea.
Well, I think it might be a combo of that and just wanting to get behind.
It's
not
a win-win.
getting in trouble.
It's a win-win
I think
for them.
that
They
it's kind of
jump
the
on
latter
it
of what
themselves.
Devin said.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
jump on it themselves before they get pressure from outside sources. And I'm not saying it was their motivation, but it was
So
the
what's the
result.
criticism? So the criticism is saying we're bringing this up and everything. So Dr. Seuss, in one sense or the other, did the right thing by removing satirical or racist, whatever you want to say, from their
Well-
books and stop publishing them. In return, or whatever their books are getting, whatever. So what's the criticism here?
Do you think it is the right thing though?
Yeah, that's the criticism.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people are saying it wasn't the right thing.
Gotcha.
Do you think it's the right thing to stop, like to eliminate books?
Like, how many books did they stop publishing? I
think it was six.
Six of
Yeah.
his, like,
4,900.
something like that.
It's a lot. Yeah, he has a lot of books.
But the question is like, okay, let's say these 6, like, what's that book that we all read in school? Fahrenheit 451? Is that where they were burning the books?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
didn't have to read that. But
I didn't read it. I just know it was about burning books, like as a censorship type thing. Like those books were written by people. They're kind of historical to say, we're not going to publish this book anymore. I don't know.
But it's the publisher saying it. I think it's a little bit different. That's what
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
not a Gina Carano Disney situation. It's,
Right.
yeah, they chose to do it.
But it is a bandwagon situation. They kind of they took a audit of the books that they're publishing and thought, this is one may be considered racially sensitive. So
well, I mean, like even big companies do that. You look at Disney; they stopped producing and stopped releasing Song of the South when it was first released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They took it off because it is wrong.
But
in
they
that
also
sense.
have things like Dumbo, where they have the crows, right?
True.
Which is
They have Peter Pan and
they have Peter Pan and What Makes the Red Man Red.
What Makes the Red Man Red.
And instead of taking those down, they put a disclaimer at the beginning that's like these were the ideas
So
at
then,
the time.
I guess my question is,
kind of a
what
disclaimer.
crosses the line then? What made Song of the South so bad? I've seen it because my friend had a bootleg copy of it, but
This is just interesting. This is the top 10 books sold this week in units. And Dr. Seuss has got 3 books on here. Top 10.
so are you saying it was wrong for them to do this?
I think it's genius. Honestly.
That's a good-
When was the last time Dr. Seuss was on the top 10? And he's got 3 books on the top 10 right now. Green Eggs and Ham sold units sold year to date 217,000. So units sold this week 46,000.
Well, did you guys hear what Ted Cruz is
Cat in the
doing?
Hat.
No, what?
So Ted Cruz is selling for $60. You can buy a Green Eggs and Ham signed by Ted Cruz.
Really?
That's actually hilarious.
Buy one, have Mike sign it.
we
That's the
should,
point.
we should buy one for Mike.
Ooh, let's do it. How much
really
is
should.
it?
$60.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, Green Eggs and Ham, Dr. Seuss, and then he has one fish, 2 fish, 3 fish, blah, blah, blah.
One fish, 2 fish, red fish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
fish,
He has
blue
4.
fish.
Oh, the places you will go. He has got 4 of the top 10.
So,
Yeah, it's 4 of
That's
his.
funny because
for
most
his
of those
top 10.
are not the ones that got
Exactly.
canceled.
But who
so-
cares? Well, you can't buy the canceled ones, right?
Well, I would think
I imagine a
there'd
lot
be
of-
a bunch still on the shelves or whatever that would have.
A lot of
think this-
people are probably like, oh, they're getting rid of their books. I better buy some.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought as well.
That's what I would assume too.
Maybe not.
So the secondhand market is where you're finding these no longer published ones, which Amazon, of course, was a book website, right?
Yeah, eBay. How
It was.
much can you buy a?
I'm looking it up
Street?
right now on Amazon, actually.
see, and my understanding is like even with Song of the South, as soon as they outlawed it or whatever, like sales for that skyrocketed. Like it became a hot item that people.
Oh yeah,
were,
totally. If you have
Yeah.
a copy of Song of the South,
And
here.
the reason I think that is because as Americans, we want to be free to read whatever we want, right? Like we shouldn't have the government or some institution tell us what we can or cannot read. Like, so in a way, when you tell people, you can't read this. Like their reaction is the opposite. Like, well, screw you. I'm going to go out and find it and buy it, even though it's a stupid book or a stupid movie, and get it. Like, and is that not a good attitude to have? Like, to not have Big Brother, quote unquote, telling people what they should or shouldn't be reading.
Well, in this case, it wasn't Big Brother, right? It was the company's own choice. But I wish they would have gone the route of Disney with most of their things, or Looney Tunes has done the same thing. There's all these old Looney Tunes cartoons where there's this one in particular I'm thinking of where they're like sailing on a boat and all these like Japanese people come up on an opposing boat. It was during World War II. Yeah. And so everyone hated Japanese people and they're just making the like crazy stereotypes about Japanese people. Anyways, they show it, you can still find it, and they just put a disclaimer at the beginning that says these were the thoughts of the people at the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, it's obviously wrong, but we're not going to take it down for historical reasons. And I like that. I like doing it that way.
I'm on the same page. I think being able to like have that disclaimer, just say, look, we recognize what this issue was. We recognize that at the time it was this or whatever, and then move on from it. So
exactly. Well, and also to like teach your kids, like, look at what people thought about these type of people back then. That was really wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's the majority.
If your kids are never exposed to it, and then they just grow up and like get in some weird racial argument one day, like, and not even have any clue about what's gone on.
So if Dr. Seuss would have kept releasing these books and just inserted a page at the beginning that said, this is wrong, but this was the thoughts of the time. This is how people acted. This is what they did.
Sure. Or at the very least, just take this one image out.
Just put a black
put, like,
square
Mickey Mouse ears over on him or something.
So continuing with the Disney thought, they're changing Splash Mountain to... So Splash Mountain was based off Song of the South, right? So now they're changing it to based off...
really?
Yeah, they're changing it to Princess and the Frog now.
Oh seriously?
Wow. Yeah.
It's not going to be...
Both Disneyland and Disney World
what's the rabbit's name?
Briar Rabbit.
Briar
Rabbit,
It's not going to be that.
Nope.
It's now Briar Bear.
Briar Bear?
At least at Disney World.
Yeah.
Magic Kingdom has...
So they're reimagining the whole thing as a Princess and the Frog ride now.
That's interesting.
And you no longer splash... It no longer splashes people on the bridge.
So this just in,
the water doesn't shoot up anymore.
I'm gonna read a little bit on Amazon about So You Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street. I know we don't want to beat this up, but I will. I just thought it was interesting. It has 5 stars, 5 solid stars. So it's a great book apparently. And
is it? I don't even remember it.
It's good.
It is a
really
good book.
Is it?
And I didn't know this in the description. It says it's Dr. Seuss's very first children's book. Oh. I didn't know that. And then guess how much your 2 and To Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street are worth, Devin? How much do you think they're worth?
No idea.
On Amazon, they're selling between $200 and $270.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow. I might sell them.
There you go.
So we have 2 copies because we have a standalone and we have one that's like part of a 5 Dr. Seuss books in one or whatever.
Because you're twice as racist.
You better sell it because I predict that they're going to reverse.
Trent, this is why we should have had kids so we can get Dr. Seuss books and then sell them and make more money.
Hey,
yeah. Or if you don't have kids, you can actually keep books like this in their original condition and then sell them.
I'm surprised Amazon's actually letting them be sold.
Right. I think what we need to do is gather up the 6 books and just promote them as the ultimate racist package and sell them
the
like
racist
that.
Box set,
the ultimate slander box set.
We should take them all to Ted Cruz, have him sign each one.
We'll have Mike sign them just for the heck of it.
Yep.
And Trent, you want to sign them too? Yeah, he'll sign them. Yeah, I think we should.
But yeah, like
that was a thumbs up from Trent, by the way.
like Jake,
listening.
Like Jake was saying, so didn't they outlaw sales of this on eBay?
Outlaw?
Really?
Yeah, like eBay won't. That's what I had heard.
eBay won't allow you to put that ISBN number or whatever in to sell your...
tangent thought. So we know like Facebook will censor things or whatever. Mm-hmm. Is it okay for eBay to stop to censor quote unquote air quotes?
They're a private company.
See, and
they can do what they want.
And that's that's what I'm getting into. Are the combination of this company, this publishing company, and eBay powerful enough to be like a big brother, quote unquote, where they can kind of dictate
I don't think
literature?
So. eBay's not that big of a player. It'd be a bigger deal if Amazon did it, but...
Well, Amazon's not as big of a private party
Trent,
dealer as eBay, like a auction. No, I don't think
not
so.
Not for auctions, but it's probably a bigger private party dealer than eBay.
I think Trent wants to add
what?
Some voice.
We already talked about that.
How come Disney could just apologize for their racism by covering it up, but the rest of the world does that and they are like nailed to a cross?
It's all about
Disney as a corporation does it. It's totally fine.
Yeah, they're like,
No,
but we made Cinderella, so come on.
I think
about
it's
the
all about
size of you,
public
it's not about
opinion.
your
It's about
racism.
doing it in a way that makes people
Okay.
happy with you, that doesn't have the mob, like doesn't get you sicked on by the mob.
It's like, what was it, Aunt Jemima syrup or whatever? Nobody was complaining about, and then they were like, we're going to change our syrup.
What was that?
Jake's playing with some
Accidentally
kind of thing.
unmuted my.
See, but here's the thing. I kind of in Devin's kind of point here. I think it's fine to like recognize these things and recognize that or whatever, change things around, but just say, hey, this was at the time. This is the decisions we made. And yeah, they're inappropriate now in today's world, but historically speaking, that's kind of how like it's been. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't think so either. I think that's a great idea. I would also genuinely like to know like how many Asian people were actually upset about this, or was this like some white professor at Harvard that was like, we need to get rid of this thing because it's racist or whatever.
I can tell you of all the Asian friends I have, they definitely were upset about the whole thing.
Here's the funny thing
about this image.
About the image or the publishers removing it.
All of it. I'm sorry about talking about like the whole rise of Asian hate in America right now, including Dr. Seuss, including the shootings and things like that.
What do you mean by the rise of Asian hate? What does that mean?
Just lately in the news, I will say, there's been this kind of topic. Trent's laughing over there. But there's been like this topic of like Asian hate being kind of like on the rise, or like there's more Asian hate in America. I personally haven't like delved into it a little bit, but from the Asian people that I follow on Instagram and my friends back in LA, like they're kind of in this movement. So
I think they're laying seeds right now to plant like World War III when we go to war with China.
To plant
See,
rice.
I didn't know that was a thing.
See-
We're starting to hate Asians more in this country.
and
I haven't seen that.
I've wondered about that because I've heard it a little bit. So I'm LDS. I'm a Mormon. I don't like go around thinking like, oh, everybody hates me or whatever, even though a lot of people believe what I believe is crazy or stupid. But if the news were suddenly like, oh, everybody's been terrible to Mormons, look at all the evil, they got driven out of their lands, people were killed, people are discriminatory towards Mormons, blah, 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 would my mindset not kind of be like, yeah, people are discriminating, like
Why are you asking us that question?
so
kind of a groupthink situation.
yeah, kind of a group
You tell
think,
us.
or like the news is like, this is how everybody thinks now, and then suddenly that's like a big issue, and then it just like blows over the
so
next
here's the
week.
question, then, like bring it to like a real like in the times example. I just finished the Murder by Mormons or Murder with Mormons?
Murder Among the Mormons.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
Yeah.
So
we talked about it on the last podcast.
Well, so specifically to your topic you brought up,
and the
like,
podcast before that, by the way.
Yeah.
This is 3 in a row now.
so 3 in a row.
But like the reason why I bring that up is because like sure you saw it, and in your context that we were saying right now, like how do you feel about that documentary being aired?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Seriously, you did.
I really did.
Yeah,
And I think you did too, didn't
Yeah,
you, Jake?
I enjoyed it.
But don't you think that brings like a bad light to Mormons?
No, and it's something that everybody's known about. Like, I don't get the whole like, oh man, aren't you guys so embarrassed? Like, no, we believe in angels and golden plates and magic glasses that translate things.
I think what
like-
caught me the most in the
magic
documentary
rocks.
was the guy who's like, I commanded him to leave. You say that to any like non-Mormon person, that just sounds so weird.
Wait, so what? Say that again.
So in the documentary, when the bomb blew up in the car, the guy came.
The guy gave him a blessing.
Yeah, the guy
Oh, yeah,
gave
gave
him
him
a
a
blessing
blessing.
and said, "I commanded you to leave."
to live.
To live.
Sorry,
Yeah, yep.
to leave. Sorry.
Yeah.
But like, don't you think that's to someone who's not Mormon? That's so weird. That's so like would think Mormons are these crazy individuals, and
Yeah.
that doesn't make you upset.
No, I would think it was weird if I wasn't a Mormon. So I totally understand that.
That's real. Like Mormons really believe that. You
Yeah.
can give
Yeah.
priesthood blessings. You can
But-
command people to live.
But you
So-
can see, but the point being, going further, is like, as a Mormon who saw that and everything, you feel like some sort of pride behind it. But like, it's a weird thing, and anyone who's not Mormon would see it. It's just like, wow, you guys are like fucking weird.
But that's the funny thing is that Phil and Jake are like, yeah, okay.
yeah,
But
so
then other people that don't even believe in that stuff, like you, and you're saying other people think it's weird. Well,
It's
they
just-
don't think it's
Well,
weird.
for me, it was cringeworthy. I was like,
I also just think it's accurate. Like whether you like it or not, it's accurate. So you
Right.
shouldn't be upset about it being out there if it's accurate. Right?
So, and that-
LDS
but,
people
like,
should.
I'm not saying like you should be upset about it, but I'm just saying people can be upset about it. And equivalently speaking, from like a racial standpoint, it's kind of the same thing. It was like these Siamese cats on Lady and the Tramp or whatever. You wouldn't want that out there.
And see, and that's why I can't. That's why it's hard for me to empathize with people who are like feel racial hate or like complain about race and stuff, because I don't empathize with it, because when I receive that kind of negative treatment, I'm just like, oh, like some people like.
Well, I mean, not even negative treatment, but attention, right?
Attention, negative attention, right? So, like, some people like really weird foods. This is a really simple generalization, but like our scout leader growing up liked pickles and peanut butter. Like, and we were all like, "Oh, that's disgusting." And then we tried it, and we were like,
He
"Oh,
needs
that's
to be murdered."
That's kind of good, actually."
It tasted better than you would think.
Yeah,
Really?
But he really liked it, and for one of us to be like, "That's disgusting. Why do you eat that?" In his mind, he's like, yeah, I get it, but I don't care because I like it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think my point I'm trying to make is if I am a person of Asian descent, Chinese or whatever, we watch Lady and the Tramp, I see the Siamese song come across, I'm going to feel offended. I'm going to feel whatever, because you shouldn't be portraying Chinese people or the stereotypical in this way.
That's Thai, by the way.
Thai? Sorry. Thank you. Well, yeah,
Siamese.
whatever. Siamese. Anyways.
Siam.
so
But I'm saying, but you don't. You see this, in this documentary where this guy says, I commanded him to live, which I think we can all agree that's a weird thing to say. I commanded him to live, and I took out my oil and consecration and
it's
everything.
weird.
I mean, that's just, I think what you just saw was a nationally televised version of like something that was typically pretty private in Mormonism, like something they wouldn't like say openly. Not that it was a big secret, but just kind of a sacred and quiet thing that people would do, like, draw the curtain in the hospital or whatever.
Right.
So it wasn't a big deal because I know that happens. Other people know that it happens. Like, so I wasn't worried about that. But I wanted to go back to your point where like,
Good question.
so real quick,
Good question.
so real quick, I just wanted to point out like that
Good point, Trent.
you're saying an Asian person sees this Lady and the Tramp and they're like, oh, that's terrible, I don't like it. But there are a lot of Asian people that think it's funny. Like, not every Asian person takes offense to those kind of things. Just like not every American takes offense if like a French cartoonist draws some kooky thing about Americans.
I feel like if I was a Mormon, devout, practicing Mormon, having something like that revealed on a national televised broadcast or whatever, I would be like, that's terrible.
Yeah. I mean,
so that was my question. So then if you guys feel like you're like, hey, that's fine, then that's your opinion. But anyways, I would just feel that's the same way.
Well, there probably are a lot of LDS people that. Yeah,
just because they look crazy. No,
I didn't think they were.
They were.
How was the church negatively portrayed in that show?
There was very slight. They didn't get into it very much, but they did touch on slightly the church buying the documents and kind of being deceived by.
There was some negativity to it. Yeah.
But all that it was is they were being deceived. They didn't do anything else.
They weren't portrayed the point being in that show, they weren't portrayed as like these I don't know, evangelical beings or whatever, but they had like, I don't know. I just feel like if I was a Mormon, like a devout Mormon, I would not have appreciated that documentary.
There's an interesting
I think at this Fraser, you're looking for a reason to be upset with everything that happens in your life.
No, I'm not.
So you're going to find something.
We're talking,
Anything that happens
about in the
negatively
context
towards
of
you
this conversation
is
right here.
a
I
reason to
could
be upset.
care less about
So you
whatever.
found a reason for the Mormons to be upset, and you're hey, here's your chance to fucking get on the cross.
I'm saying
that's what you're doing.
I'm more upset about Lady and the Tramp having the Siamese stereotypical song, and I'm just trying to convey that to Phil and Jake here about being Mormon. You don't have to have some sort of confrontational discussion with anyone on this podcast all the time, Trent.
And see, and that's
you do.
and that's why I'm saying.
On the contrary,
On the contrary.
And
It's
that's
in
why
his DNA.
we're
You
gonna
sound stupid when you say that.
and that's why we're gonna have a hard time with a lot of this, like
Yeah,
race
no, I totally
stuff
get that, yeah.
in particular, because when you reverse those roles, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's funny. Like South Park Mormonism was like my favorite South Park episode.
It's
and,
hilarious,
And
yeah.
literally when I saw that episode, I was like, I wish I had this everywhere I went on my mission, because it just explained it perfectly. Like, here it is. Like, so
Here's what Satan says about us.
yeah.
Dum 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 dum.
So
It was the Mormons.
other than the dumb, 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 if you just change that to cool, 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 cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We love you.
Yeah, I've had discussions with people about this, and it's kind of an interesting point of like jokes. Okay, the racist, stereotypical, sexist, all the offensive jokes that you can think of, and why are they jokes and why are they offensive? Because here's the thing: I would ask people from other countries and other races and say, "Give me an American white person joke." Like something that's offensive towards white people or Americans. And the truth was there aren't many of those jokes out there. I did hear one, which was hilarious to me, is that there's a New Zealander.
It wasn't offensive. It was actually funny.
It was hilarious. This New Zealander said that he called, they all had a nickname for Americans. He's like, I don't really have a joke, but for Americans, here's, for the white male Americans, we call them all seppos. And I'm like, well, what's a seppo? And he's like, it's short for septic tank because they're all full of shit. And I thought that was hilarious. But he's like, anytime we ever saw a visitor or a tourist in New Zealand, we call them seppos. So, but there's just not. Where's the white male American joke that's offensive? I don't see it.
So I served my mission in the Philippines for the LDS Church, and in the Philippines, there's this kind of remnant of the American image left over from World War II. We still have a large base there, but we used to be like occupying the whole country. Mm-hmm. And everywhere you walk, if you're a white person or somebody who looks foreign, everybody calls you Joe everywhere you go. So they say, hey, Joe Romano, like everywhere, like you're a celebrity.
Hey,
and like
Joe,
the first couple days, it's like kind of like funny, like, haha, everyone thinks I'm Joe. But on some missionaries, it really wears on them. Like they would get really upset about it and like confront people sometimes. I never got that worked up about it, but like, so I've experienced a little bit of like quote unquote racism where somebody just kind of looks at you and says, you're this person because of this. And people would say, oh, you live in America. That means you're really rich. You never have to work. You don't know how to use a shovel. Like literally all kinds of stuff like that. And I'd be just like, no, I actually, grew up working on a farm a lot and I can dig you a hole right now. And they'd actually stand around in a circle, like dumbfounded. Like, I can't believe this white guy's using a shovel. Like,
That's hilarious.
Like the weirdest things. Like,
oh my God.
So I understand that a little bit. But again, my personality isn't one of just like, oh, I hate that. Well, other missionaries really had a hard time with it.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting.
so I'm not the right person to like be the strong front of like racial justice. I'm the a-hole who doesn't care either way. Like,
What
that's
does a-hole stand for, Phil?
Bumhole.
Say it.
eternal
Say it.
holiness.
Oh, wow.
Devin.
So your
it's
missionary
asshole.
tag said Elder Joe on it because you're
Elder Joe.
Was
Yeah.
it because G.I. Joe or like
That's what I thought.
G.I.
too,
Joes,
G.I.
yeah.
like the military, the Joes? Yeah.
The Joes, yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious to me.
So anyway,
When I have traveled abroad, I've asked a lot of different people, to give like an impression of an American or what they think about Americans. And every single time, without fail, outside of the United States, it's like a deep South Republican gun lover. Every single time, I'm like, give me your American accent. And they're like, how y'all doing today? And like just this like stereotypical
with
Southern
a German accent.
country. Yeah, exactly. Like a terrible country accent.
I got myself a rifle.
Yeah, exactly. They're like stupid. They hate everyone.
Where's
They
Dolly
love
Parton?
Trump.
Oh God, that is hilarious though.
but
I want to
anyway,
go to the South. Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. Let's get in your van and drive off middle of the night.
Yeah,
let's do this.
just go right now.
Okay.
Okay. See you later, husband. On to our topic of the evening, China. We touched on it a little bit in some other things we were talking about. I wanted to dig into a little bit with our relationship with China.
I've never met her.
Should we have one? Should we not? Should we change it? What should we do about China? should we do anything? These are the questions tonight about China.
My answers are yes, no, probably, and all right. I
Did you
agree.
just say China?
And I
in
hardly knew her.
reference to China.
China, like
He loves
Donald
China.
Trump.
He
said
loves
it.
Trump.
We're going
yeah.
to talk about China. That's what he meant.
The men, Jaina.
Exactly. So everyone here knows what the Tiananmen Square massacre was. So just a little recap.
They massacred a bunch of nerds.
Bunch of students were in China, were protesting the government's economic policies, things like that. And China rolled in the military. You've probably seen the famous image of the dude standing in the street with the tank coming towards him. Was like one of the top 100 images of the 20th century. So China comes in and kills, they estimate, but anywhere between 300 and 3,000 people. They don't actually know for sure because as soon as they came in and killed all these people, they immediately covered it up. And even to this day, you can't talk about Tiananmen Square or the massacre openly in China. It's like totally off limits. Because of this, moving a little bit forward, China was refused membership in the World Trade Organization. And toward the end of Bill Clinton's term, he pretty much was getting the ball rolling to get them to join the World Trade Organization. 2 months after September 11th, 2001, George Bush admitted or finalized that process for China to join the World Trade Organization. And the idea behind it was if China does trade with everybody else and has this free trade and open trade, then they're going to become more democratic like us. They're going to, these, not conservative, what's the word? Capitalist values are going to infiltrate their country and they're going to, see you later. And they're going to be better people. They're going to be less communist when this happens.
Which kind of has happened.
Kind of a little bit, but I'm actually going to get into why it's actually been the reverse and actually gotten a lot worse, particularly since
Well, they have gotten
2012.
more capitalist, but they have also.
So this is from the Wall Street Journal, just a couple paragraphs I'm going to read right here. With a congressional vote looming, so this is from the Wall Street Journal. It says, with a congressional vote looming in the spring of 2000, President Bill Clinton mustered his best arguments for why lawmakers should approve his proposed deal for China to join the World Trade Organization, adding China would link Beijing to Western economies and reduce the government's ability to control its vast population. He said in a speech that March at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, quote, by joining the World Trade Organization, China is not simply agreeing to import more of our products. It is agreeing to import one of democracy's most cherished values, economic freedom, Mr. Clinton said. When individuals have the power not just to dream, but to realize their dreams, they will demand a greater say. Mr. Clinton's idealistic rhetoric played well among most of Washington's elites, but a trade lawyer often dismissed as a protectionist, Robert Lighthizer, was skeptical.
I need to admit something right now.
You farted.
I'm not really listening.
Yeah, neither am I.
Okay. As he had warned in a New York Times op-ed,
It got boring, Phil.
To be honest, I'm working at a Richard appointment right now, so keep going.
As he had warned in a New York Times op-ed a few years earlier, if admitted to the World Trade Organization, mercantilist China would become a dominant trading nation. Virtually no manufacturing job in the U.S. will be safe, he wrote. So Robert Lighthizer, that is what he was saying back in 2000.
Litzinger.
So who was, obviously, I mean, who was right, Bill Clinton or this Robert?
I don't know. I didn't
listen. Can you tell us who was right, please?
So what I just read
Just tell us what to think.
was with a congressional vote looming
you're reading
in the
it
spring.
again?
Oh, here we go. Let's be honest. Bill Clinton didn't even know like what sex was exactly. I think the other guy was right.
So
am I right?
Get to the point.
So that was the point. Like those 3 paragraphs that you couldn't even pay attention to
he made the
because
point
you were
already.
raised by SpongeBob.
That's valid, actually.
So Clinton was saying, I'll read it again. What
But he
his-
was wrong, right?
Come on. You know what? You brought up SpongeBob. Let's talk
By
about
joining
that.
the World Trade Organization, China is not simply agreeing to import more of our products.
I think we should pivot the topic to Pepe Le Pew.
It's agreeing to import more of our values. So Clinton was saying China is going to import more of our products from the United States.
And that's going to make them import our values as well.
And import our values. So, question, did they import our products and or values?
No.
Did that actually happen?
They have become more capitalist, so they have imported some of those values, but they still, prevent their citizens from a bunch of websites and saying things in public and a bunch of stuff. So
they import in their products or whatever, but we make fun of their values and we make fun of them.
And their products.
Make fun of their values?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the truth is, I don't think anyone in China gives a flying F
Right, but I'm
about
just
half
saying,
the stuff
we
that we
import
debate.
in their products or whatever, but how many of us, like something that said made in China and roll their eyes or whatever?
Yeah.
Phil
Absolutely.
hates everything
So, yeah.
made in China.
So they import in their products, and then we, in turn, as Americans or however you want to put it, make fun of them.
That's what we are.
Because
But-
of that.
So
You know
that's
what, though?
not, that's not making fun of them to not want to import Chinese products.
Right, but like you look at someone who said this was made in China, like what
No.
kind of context are you bringing to that, right?
You're reading too. Have you ever heard the reasons why Phil hates Chinese products?
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. It actually has a lot of substance behind it.
To your point, we're not importing their values. We're making
No.
fun of them.
Opposite. We're saying Clinton was saying that they would import our values by us
China
trying
will
to
not have
give us
sexual relations with that woman. That's what they're saying.
I don't even know where to go.
That's the
That was a
values.
tr- that was a
those are the
I'm not trying
values.
to pivot off that.
Those are the values he was talking about.
So
That was a Trump sound.
So essentially, yeah, I think we got a little off there. But so Clinton was saying, we're going to make this great deal, and China's going to buy all kinds of stuff from the U.S. The U.S. is going to buy from China. We're both going to get rich from it.
And in turn, they will also start to adapt some American values.
Right. They're going to become more democratic. Their people will be freer. They'll be less oppressed, et cetera, et cetera. This other guy...
Which is kind of true. It has happened a little bit, but not nearly as much as it needs to.
So they're actually saying, and I'll get into this a little more, but they're
Hopefully
actually
there's no
saying
more reading, though.
since 2012, it's actually gotten a lot worse. They've actually cracked down on a lot of freedom and a lot of specifically freedom of the press and things like
I think
that.
it just
I would say a lot of the
Wait,
people
sorry,
have
in the
adopted.
US or in China.
a lot of-
China.
I'd say a lot of the people have adopted American influence
Yeah.
and values,
Yeah.
but
And
the
they-
government, I don't see any
They
evidence.
have
that
become more
the government
capitalist.
So what-
has.
People can own their own businesses
So what
now.
are you basing that on? That they've become more...
Just because, like, in Taiwan, you got a lot of people who are following the same, with the whole free Taiwan thing that was going on with the NBA, or not Tibet. Wasn't it Taiwan or
Oh, Hong Kong.
Hong Kong? Yeah, sorry, Hong Kong. But there was a lot of shared sentiment with the value of freedom and democracy among the people in Hong Kong.
So in Hong Kong, that's true because Hong Kong has kind of always been a little bit separate. Not always, but since I think 97 from mainland China.
Yeah, it is a lot more independent.
And it was actually just because of these recent protests that China's actually cracked down, and there was some deal where
Well, the protests were because China started cracking down.
China started cracking down, they start protesting, and then China released the coronavirus to distract the entire world.
They let
and
the cat out of the Wuhan lab.
out of the
bat.
Wuhan lab,
the bat out of the lab.
and
cat
then
out of the bag.
and now they've
Wait,
actually
what's
swept.
Wuhan?
That's where the
virus started.
Okay, I knew that. Sorry.
Go back to your Richard
Go back to your
appointment.
dick pic.
Sorry, I'm going back to my Richard appointment. Thank you.
But
China adopting
Kong.
U.S. values. Hong Kong's a little bit different.
so Hong Kong had this big protest. So now China's gone in and totally revamped their political system in Hong Kong. So pretty much what China was supposed to wait another 3 decades to do per their agreement with the United Nations or whatever it was, they've just kind of swept in and
So what is it?
done
Like China gets to place people who are in government positions in Hong Kong now, right? Like mainland China gets to decide who's in these top level government positions in Hong Kong.
Yeah, they're pretty much just taken over.
Right. And that wasn't supposed to happen for I don't know how much more time, a lot more years before that was supposed to happen. Is
Exactly.
that right?
Yeah, essentially, that's what's going on there. So another important thing that's been happening pretty recently, which I think you'll be interested in, Tyler, is China has gone into this region. I think it's in southwest China, where these people called the Uyghur Muslims, something like that. They've actually gone in and put all these people in pretty much concentration camps because of their religion, and they're indoctrinating them to be not Muslim, essentially. Like, they're putting them in prison, and once they're cured of Islam or whatever, then they can be released. It's estimated that as many as 1 million people are actually in these
unbelievable.
camps right now.
That's the scariest thing to me, honestly, about China, is that we don't know what the hell is going on over there.
Right.
And no one does.
Right.
Right.
It's all behind the red curtain.
That sounds more like Nazi Jew thing to me more than anything
Yeah.
else.
Exactly. Well,
or like Japanese.
Well,
and
and that-
we just keep buying their stuff, and we don't really place any. I don't know what the right word is, restrictions, or we're not punishing them in any way. for
unless
all
your
of
name's
this.
Trump.
no, and when
Well,
we get
he didn't really do anything either. He started a trade war with them, but it didn't end up getting anywhere. Didn't do anything.
Well, he did something.
But like, I mean, as a country, why should we care?
yes.
I mean, we're importing a bunch of products from a country who is enslaving a lot of people.
Like exploiting their people. or
Like if I
whatever.
had an Etsy store, but I also like had slaves, but the Etsy store was funding my ability to keep the slaves, would you buy the stuff from my Etsy
I
store?
don't know what an Etsy store is.
Okay.
It doesn't
Just-
matter.
but
if
yeah,
Jeff
okay,
had
yeah.
a store, we should support it if slaves are what's making
Just so
the
you know, I'm
products.
knit.
Yeah, I get
I'm
that, yeah.
knitting
Jeff made macrame
hoodies.
hoodies. And sold them online. And those hoodies supported
Funded
his,
my slavery fund from my basement in the pit.
but
anyway,
but they were affordable.
they were
hoodies.
very affordable.
because
handmade.
of the slaves.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones that made the macrame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shouldn't support that. And so we shouldn't be supporting China the way we are.
But we should put a link to my Etsy store in the show notes.
so and you guys know that I've been passionate about this subject for a long time, and when I say passionate, I mean like mildly more concerned than like your average subject. But-
Okay, you're not allowed to introduce this, Phil. On every single possible way where it's feasible, he will not buy products that are made outside the U.S.
Phil,
if
do
he
you
can get
shop
away
at
with it.
Walmart?
sometimes I do. Yeah.
So you're supporting China.
Sometimes I do buy Chinese products. Usually with what's the word? Relent or
Regret?
regret.
Phil will walk into Walmart with the ski mask on, so no one recognizes who he is, so that he can buy the one thing.
No, I'm not embarrassed about it. Usually when I buy something from China, like 90% of the time, it's because there is no other option. Like toasters.
Every single time.
Nobody.
I mean, are you paying attention to batteries, silverware?
Everything I buy in a store that's like a not food, I check where it's made.
And
if
what about when your wife shops?
she's less concerned about it.
So you're saying
you check her
everything
receipts?
in this house right now that you
No.
bought is not from China?
So
that's not what he's
almost
saying.
everything in here I built with my own hands.
No,
And then-
but like the books, the
books are
the cups,
100
the
years
whatever.
old. Most
Yeah.
of my cups are made
You're
in the
saying
U.S.
that everything that you have bought in this house.
So
No.
most of my cups are made in the U.S. My silverware set is made in the U.S. My shoes and boots are all made in the U.S. None of my pants or shirts are. That's actually pretty hard
Electronics.
to come by.
So we applaud you for being American.
But no, here's
No,
the reason.
so-
here's
so-
We're
the thing.
not supporting China.
So here's the thing. So it's not that I'm. So
You're not fully gone solar yet.
there's two it's two sides of this. So I want to buy American because it supports me. I believe when you buy something, the closer you buy to you, the more you're actually getting that money back.
Right.
So that's the one thing. I like to support American jobs. I believe in America and the ideals behind the Constitution. So I want to support that. When I buy something from China, I'm literally supporting dictatorship communism, like with slaves, et cetera, et cetera. It's actually no different to me than buying like Nazi made products in the height of the Nazi era, but people didn't know like exactly what Nazis were doing. Now, that being said, I've admitted that I occasionally buy Chinese products. So it's not that I'm so gung-ho on it, but I do think it's something that we as a nation need to be more mindful of.
I would say you're more gung-ho than anybody else I know. And I know a few people.
I agree
Probably.
too.
And I will also say that I think it is very relevant for you to tell us this story in just the quick description of when you were in the Philippines. Why did you decide to start buying Americans? Like, what did you see there?
So when I was in the Philippines,
Not buying Americans, but
so-
buying American.
So
Whatever.
I had an investigator who I ended up baptizing, who was a tailor. He had before worked in like a factory for Versace, which is like, I guess, a crazy high end, like super expensive
Most people know.
clothes. I don't, because I'm not into clothes, but
What?
but
He's not into
so
clothes
so
right
he
now.
was taking me in there. He was showing me the fabric and everything, and he's like, "Yeah, this costs like $1,200 over in the States where you are." And I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy." I'm like, "How much is this piece of fabric right here?" And he's like, "Oh, this right here, this is like 120 pesos."
But I think the point that I'm trying to make, or the point I'm going to make now, is like I think the most American way of quote unquote air quotes or whatever American way of purchasing items is purchasing them from China. So if some sort of governmental leader said, "Hey, to support your American way of life or supporting America means we're purchasing goods from another country," is that different than?
Wait, why is
don't-
that the most American way?
Don't
But no,
interrupt.
that's my question.
But
Like-
let him finish his story because he's just started on.
Oh,
that.
sorry.
He's
But-
explaining to you why he doesn't agree to buy American. It's not because it's to buy Chinese.
The point I got from the story was just like, hey, look, the most American or supporting America way is buying American-made products.
No,
right?
that wasn't the point.
So,
So-
he's just barely getting into the character development right
So
now.
yeah, so anyway,
Act one,
he's showing
scene
me all
two.
this
storyboard. Got
He's
it, sorry.
showing me this fabric, and he's introducing me to the workers, like, and these workers get paid like barely enough to like buy a little bit of fish and rice that day for their family. That's it. And this guy who's above them, he makes a little more money. He actually has a concrete house with like a concrete floor and like a bed to
Which is
sleep on.
rare there, right?
Like, yeah, it's really rare. Like, and those dudes are making all this clothing happen for this company who is selling it back in the United States for like literally like 10,000, 20,000% profit or markup on what their actual cost is to produce this stuff. So these companies are literally exploiting these people. And it is exploitation, because if those people only paid those guys 50 cents an hour, they would be rich in their country. Like, but they're not. And so here in America, we say, oh, people need minimum wage. People need, all these rights as workers. And these big companies are saying, well, yeah, but we'll just go buy it from over here, where there's this big question mark on what even happens, because China covers it up. They don't let people over there to see what's going on in the factories. And so you buy this product here and you're like, oh, great, this is so cheap, or this is a great price. And there's actually a huge human cost to that price. And so, and that's what got me passionate a little bit about trying not to buy things specifically from China. I actually have a list of countries, so I'll actually prefer to buy things in the US and then Canada and Mexico and then European countries, South America. I kind of go along the height of democracy scale or whatever, and it ends up down at the bottom, Cambodia, China, places like that. So,
You know who makes crappy T-shirts? Is
China?
Antarctica.
yeah,
They're all black and white.
they sure do. But
It's
anyway,
a penguin joke.
so that's what started it. But
It was a bad joke.
I know.
so that's what started it. But as I moved on in life, I found that there was actually a lot even greater reasons than that to not buy from China. The Tiananmen Square thing was a big deal. And just the fact that their government pretty much owns them in a 1984 style, like, what's the word? Like, they're controlling people's lives, controlling people's thoughts, people's actions. If someone were to say, I don't like the government, I don't like that they did this, they can disappear the next day. Their whole family can disappear. That's actually a really common thing If you look,
indentured servitude is still a thing there, huh?
yeah. So like, and if you say that, you'll disappear, your whole family will disappear, and then you go to a labor camp where you perform hard labor, which is often producing product or raw materials that's going into the products that we end up buying over here in the United States. Right. So there's a lot to it, but what I was getting at with this whole World Trade Organization thing is we let China join the World Trade Organization in hopes that this would all get fixed.
Right. It's the equivalent of like having a crappy relationship and you get married hoping that it'll fix things.
Yeah. And
that's what I think.
And it doesn't fix things. And so is it time for divorce? Is the question.
I think the idea was actually a good idea at the time, even though it hasn't worked out as well as people hoped that it would. I think the general idea, though, like, is if we become reliant enough on each other, then we have to be at peace with each other and we'll adapt each other's values more. I think that in general holds true. I think that usually is what ends up happening. I think that has happened to a certain degree in China, just not nearly enough. It needs to happen like a ton more.
So, and some worrying things about China. We mentioned a few weeks ago that they were building islands in the sea, and we think that's a problem because it could be used militarily. We think that's the real reason that they're putting islands with airstrips and things like that, because they're going to take over the ocean pretty much. But they're also spending a ton. They're second in the world on military spending. Like, they're ramping up for serious military encounter, either with us or other nations or a combination of those. And we're actually financing that. It's kind of it
through Walmart.
It's a little bit interesting to think about, like, if right now we were funding the Nazis, let's say, like we were buying Nazi products, knowing that like some of that money we spent is going to be spent on bullets that could be shot at our children or our grandchildren.
You know, I personally, I don't know. It's a little bit of a balancing act on China's end, honestly, because here's the problem. What if you go to war?
We buy so much of their shit.
If we cut them off in a war as a consumer, what are they going to produce and where are they going to get their money from? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's all part of a plan. I don't know. But it's almost like if you have a person that keeps buying you things, like if it's like a drug addict situation, like if you have the dealer and you have the drug addict person there, if the drug addict like dies or cuts you off, who are you going to sell to? Yeah. You know, so you got to kind of keep the person alive and going and keep them wanting more.
No, I agree. I'm not concerned really myself about a war with China because they sell us so much stuff. I don't know what the numbers are, but we have to be the biggest percentage.
Well, we're the largest consumer in the world, period. Doesn't matter where you're talking about.
So we have to be the biggest percentage of sales that China gets. So why would they go to war with us?
So one real quick on that, one worrying statistic that I found is that I think it was in the year 2019. So here we go. The extent of Chinese investment in recent years has also raised red flags around U.S. national security, particularly in the realm of rare earth minerals. These are especially vital not only for high technology products such as smartphones and electronic vehicles, but for U.S. frontline weapons, including the F-35 fighter, which requires 920 pounds of rare earth mineral. In 2017, the United States produced 0 rare earth minerals. China, on the other hand, accounted for more than 80% of the world's supply. So are we actually getting into a situation where we are at war, we do cut off, and now we can't make anything?
So my personal opinion, and this is like just what I've known about our U.S.'s relationship with China, is the way I look at it in a very simplistic term is like, as a U.S., we exploited China for their goods. We basically said, look, a foreign company or a foreign country can produce these items at such a significant less cost. Let's exploit it. Now China's coming to the terms of like, okay, we're not going to be exploited anymore. These are the resources we have, and now we're coming on par with it. And then as a U.S., we're looking at just saying, what? No, we were just, now we're going to move into our thing because you're not going to take that exploitation anymore. That's my personal opinion.
No, and I think you're probably right. I think when Bill Clinton was saying
that slippery son of a bitch.
So I think you're right. I think when Bill Clinton was saying, hey, we're going to open this world trade and it's going to make China a better place, really, maybe not necessarily his, but probably at some level, his intention and the intention of the people who supported this was more, let's exploit these poor people for their cheap labor to make cheap products, to make huge profits. Like, I think that was a huge motivation behind admitting them to the World Trade Organization. People saw that as this opportunity. So I think that's absolutely right. And now they're becoming this big powerhouse, and now we're getting worried about it. My opinion is that we never should have got into it in the first place because there were so many human rights issues with China. There was so much freedom issues, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press.
But is that a China issue or is that a U.S. issue? Because the U.S. issue is like capitalism, right? Hey, why would I pay this person sitting, my neighbor next to me, to produce something at a higher cost when I can get that exploited from another country at a lower cost?
I think capitalism is the justification behind it, which was wrong. So because obviously they're exploiting people. It doesn't matter if it's for a capitalist reason. And that's what Bill Clinton was saying. He's saying capitalism will fix everything. By trading, we're going to get better. And like Devin was saying, some things have got a little better. But since 2012, actually, they've kind of brought the hammer down hard. They've eliminated, so a lot of U.S. companies that were doing business in China, they've kicked out completely. Their press and things like that has been extremely limited. Their internet is now extremely limited. There's no Google in China. It's literally log on to Chinese Google and we'll feed you whatever the government wants you to see type thing.
But then, so to that point, like, why is it our issue as U.S. Americans or the U.S. to say you should have access to Google, you should have access to things we have, when we're dictating our beliefs on another country?
So we're not dictating them if all we're saying is we're not going to trade with you unless you have these values.
Right, you're not dictating, but you are like constructing this relationship based off the values that you have, right?
Because the values that we have is that man has unalienable rights.
That we are better than everyone else.
An unalienable.
I mean, that's not true. You know what I mean?
Well, what I'm saying is that the America was founded on a principle that mankind has a certain rights.
I would argue against that, but that's a different point.
So it's fine. But the documentation that they put forth is that man has rights. And so right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm just at that point. Right, wrong, or indifferent, listen, that's what the document says. I'm not saying that everyone's done it right. I'm just saying that's what the documentation says. And some people actually believe it. I believe it. I think that man does have a right to, the freedoms. And I think that it is someone's responsibility to make sure there's not indentured servitude going through generations. If it's not,
but so I mean,
so here's a really good example.
We can talk about the historical part of this, but the Constitution wasn't built on the fact that this country was free at the time. This Constitution was built on the idea, not on the idea, but built on the conception that there were slaves enslaved at the time. There were slave owners. That's how the Constitution was built. So to say this Constitution, this America was built on this idea of this free republic, whatever, is completely not true. Because this country was literally built on the back of slaves. It was literally built on the deprecation of Native Americans. That's how this country was built. So what I'm saying is when it comes to our relationship with China,
and what they're doing is fine.
No, I'm just saying U.S. is falling into the same historical attitude of portraying and pushing beliefs onto another country on that front.
So let me ask you this, and this might be a little bit personal. You're a gay man. In Iran, if you are a gay man or openly gay man, I believe the penalty is death.
Yeah.
Like, is that accurate?
Push you off a roof.
So we don't currently trade with Iran at all, but let's say they fix a lot of the other issues that we don't, other reasons that we don't trade with them, but they keep the killing of gay people in there. Like, would you be for trading with Iran if that were the case?
No, I don't think so.
So, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many values there. It's not that we are like trying to say you should be like us. It's that there are very wrong human rights things going on, and we're literally funding that with our trade. Our trade with them is their lifeblood. If we were to cut off trade tomorrow, they would be screwed. And their people would say, we got to fix this. What's going on? And we would say, well, all you have to do is open up. You don't have to use Google, but your search engine needs to be accessible. You need to release all these people out of prison. People can say whatever they want. People can worship however they want. If you do that tomorrow, then trade goes back to normal. Like, isn't that a reasonable... Is that enforcing our views on them, or is it just saying we don't support what you're doing?
In the relationship of it all, from start to beginning, from start to finish or whatever, or from the beginning of our relationship with China, I don't think it's appropriate, because our relationship with China, or our relationship with any foreign country, has been in the light of exploitation. We're exploiting China on the fact that they can produce goods, in this specific example, produce goods at a lower cost than our neighbor could ever. And now China's coming to this point of saying, like, we don't want to do this anymore, or whatever. And now we're taking the stance of, okay, well, if you're not going to play with us, then we're not going to play with you because of these reasons. And it's just a majorative stake mentality, essentially, about it.
So you think we should keep relationship with China the same as it is now? Or?
I think there needs to be like more discussion and built upon it and everything like that. But
we shouldn't make any demands or like...
Yeah, well, I'm just saying you can't get mad at like consumers buying made in China products, because that's how the relationship has been the entire portion of that. You know what I mean? No, for you specifically, like, you don't buy made in China products for whatever reason, but everyone else does.
Right. And I'm not getting mad at those people. I genuinely think that most people, it's just not something that they think about. Like, they're like, this is cheap. I don't have a lot of money. I'm going to buy this. I love that it's cheap.
It's such a catch-22, I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we talked about this the last episode. It's like the calculation is too big for most people.
Right.
Like, they can't sit down and think, how do I like make the best decisions about energy? How do I make sure I'm not polluting? How do I make sure I'm not exploiting people in other countries? Like, all of these calculations, it's too big. So people just go shop at Walmart because they don't want to think about all this stuff. It's too much to think about.
Right. Exactly. Now, I think if we were to see on CNN tomorrow the inside of this massive prison camp that they have and how people were treated, I think you would see a massive shift immediately in how people buy things. But that kind of information,
I would agree.
That kind of information is incredibly censored. Like, it's just not even heard of. So. Right.
Yeah.
Well, you can get it. There's documentaries on Foxconn and about employees trying to commit suicide and putting up nets and all that.
So, and that was at the right. Foxconn is the company who builds Apple products and a lot of other other worlds. And that's actually, is that in Taiwan or
I don't remember.
I can't remember. But
I thought it was in mainland China, but
it might be.
But see, this is the stuff that pisses me off about the media, is that they don't run that, but Donald Trump farts in a hallway and it's on live streaming for 48 hours.
Yeah, so
I mean, it's true. I'm saying you can get documentaries on Foxconn, but you're not getting it from CNN.
Right, CNN and CBS and NBC, and none of these places are like, to me, that would be a huge deal. And I don't even think I even ran into any news stories or anything about that, about the Foxconn thing.
Well, I mean,
and yes, Foxconn is in Taiwan.
Yeah,
I mean,
I didn't know that.
The subject of Trump is always newsworthy, regardless of.
Yeah, I know. My point is, I feel like they have their priorities mixed up.
Right.
But we used to
the same concept, like with our, our relationship with China. We have our priorities.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean? It's the same thing.
But
and they're mixed up.
But we used to be a country that had interest in that. Like, growing up as a kid, you would see a National Geographic on the stand in the grocery store or whatever, and it'd like be a portrayal, there'd be a picture on there of like starving children or something like that. Like, that was something you were kind of aware of growing up. Now we never hear about that kind of stuff. And there certainly are just as much of that, if not more, going on.
But there's way more cat videos.
More cat videos.
So many more.
Well, don't fuck with cats.
And it doesn't rile people up. It's like, oh, that's sad, But people aren't like, oh, Donald Trump said what? Or Joe Biden tripped on the stairs going up the plane. Like, it's just like...
I think what was the quote that Bolt brought up? Is that Shallow Man or whatever talks about other people?
Yeah.
That's kind of like
Eleanor Roosevelt's quote.
That's kind of what I feel like the media is at. It's like all TMZ, like what are the Kardashians doing?
A lower level talk about people.
Or let's talk about
gossip, basically.
Gossip, and yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump farting in the hallway and Joe Biden mixing up his daughter's name with his doctor's name.
It's not interesting. It's not interesting to understand, coming from my opinion, the plight of Native Americans. You know what I mean? You say, like, as America, we've been, I don't know, sorry, your quote or whatever, but just like we were concerned about that stuff, If that were true, then we'd have different history books about how, white people have treated Native Americans since they've arrived here, So, but it's not, like, to Jeff's point, it's not interesting. Like, no one really wants to know about that.
Yeah.
They really want to know what Kim Kardashian wore the other day at the Grammys.
They want to see a cat jump up in the air when you scare
and
it.
that's just how shallow Americans are.
Like,
though.
I'm way more interested in Native Americans than the Kardashians. I don't care about the Kardashians.
But the two of
I don't
us,
think I'm
of the eight of us.
No, I don't think I'm an abnormality. I think that most of us here are the same way, and there's a lot of people in the U.S. who are the same way. So I think, to Phil's point, if the news would just say it, there would be a lot more people who would be interested.
Right.
People are interested in the pacifier, the thing that makes them feel good for the moment. They don't want to. People don't want to hear about. They don't want to hear about the bad stuff going on.
Yeah.
But no matter what, the bad stuff that's going on should be headline news.
But in my opinion, to Devin's point, you are an abnormality when it comes to that. Not many people, at least in my experience, have ever said anything the way you just said that.
I also think a big part of the reason why people want the pacifier and not the like tough story or whatever is because there's like the tough, you can go find the tough story, right? And you'll find some like obscure documentary telling you all about China and these things, but you get to the end of the documentary and it's like very clear to you there's absolutely nothing I can do. There's literally nothing I can do to help this situation. Like, that's, at least in my opinion, I come away from any of these documentaries like, well, what am I going to do about it? This is the way the world works.
I don't think not having, so that, I agree to that. I think people ought to take that, but I think knowing what you know now and then being able to speak about it at some point, whether that's a conversation in your family, whether that's a conversation with your friends or what, sorry, I think I lost. That to me is more of a spread wise of what you're doing than not talking about it.
Yeah, and
that's true.
That's
and
true.
not supporting these companies, not buying China is definitely something you can do about it. But there's just this overwhelming feeling of like, okay, I'm not going to buy China, but everybody else is going to keep buying China. So what good is it going to do?
Right.
Well, and see, and with me, like, I can say, oh yeah, I don't buy from China, but on the flip side, I can say I don't recycle. And my justification is that me recycling or not has no effect. So I myself am contradictory, where on the one I'm like, I can do a little bit, and on the other one I'm like, I really don't care. And I think for other people, most people don't care about China, but maybe they recycle better. Like that's one thing or the other. Now, my personal opinion is that the China thing is a lot bigger issue than recycling, because people are in camps, people are being tortured, people are, disappearing. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah,
like,
what's worse, people being mistreated or landfills getting bigger?
Right.
Yeah.
And which I think they will anyway. And people would argue that well, the
People
landfills
make that
get bigger,
argument.
the whole earth is going to get worse, things are going to flood, blah, blah, blah. I'm not into that, but I understand where people are coming from. But I was going to add real quick that one thing I actually think is a big problem is media or technology. Like we've kind of been like, well, technology's been so great because now look, I can Google anything. But because you can Google anything, the company that is doing the story on Native Americans and the plight that they went through in 1840 or whatever, like that is totally washed out, because all of these companies, instead of just like coming up with a story and publishing it, are literally like clawing at every little breadcrumb just to make a little bit of money, because there's so much out there. Like, it's not when it used to be when there were like 5 networks, everyone could just do their thing, everyone made money and could have integrity and journalistic, whatever. Like now it's like a bloodbath. Like people have to survive, they have to get clicks, they have to get whatever they can. And I really think that technology is a huge part of it.
So like a little bit of like panhandling your story to make sure it gets sold.
Yeah, like because otherwise you can't afford to even make it. Like, Like if a documentarian, a person who, or whatever, makes a documentary on Native Americans, like that's a big expense. He's got to rent or buy camera equipment. He needs producers, sound engineers. He's got to make that documentary. He's got to do all the historical work, interview all the people. He's got to make some money unless he's independently wealthy and just makes documentaries for fun.
But there's like,
and if it's
millions of other people making documentaries as well.
Exactly.
There's hundreds of them, thousands of them.
And
now.
if his doesn't get on top and get the clicks, so there's that motivation that like, I've got to hype this up, I've got to change it, or I'm not going to make any money with this, so I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to go for Kim Kardashian or whatever. Like,
and it gears a little more towards like, the cat guy. What's that? What is it, Jake?
Wilson's Cats.
No, the guy that owned all the tigers and
Tiger
King. Yeah, it's like, well, we started out with the idea of doing a historical narration of like this tribe, but we ended up with that because we know people are going to watch it. It's like, what the?
It's like this
insane.
podcast. It is so expensive. That's why we have a Patreon.
Yeah. And you can donate
So you
there
can
now.
You can donate on a monthly basis.
Because of all the media companies, this one is legit. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
This one is like tried and true with so much integrity.
We research everything.
We research
I was gonna say,
everything.
We're hoping for a non-family
It
member.
depends on what you mean by legit. If
Someone
by
that's not in my
legit,
family.
by legit you mean we're giving you our true, honest opinions. Yes, we're
If by
super
le-
legit.
if by
legit you mean it's accurate in any way whatsoever, or informative or helpful, then
That's not what we're talking
But
about.
but as we've already explained, that doesn't matter because you're already reading 20 other things that aren't informative or accurate. So you might as well listen to us.
Yeah, we will legit tell you whatever we think.
Yeah.
and I guess that's like a whole nother topic aside from China is technology and the spread of information. When there's so much information available now, and it looks like that's actually like we all thought that would be a good thing, right? Everybody thought as much information as possible. This has to be good, but it turns out it maybe isn't because it's turned into a everybody just cares about getting the clicks and getting the views, and hate gets more views than like actual information.
It's an interesting idea, and I kind of wish Mike was here right now because I get a little nerdy on the sci-fi stuff. But like the concept of nuclear bombs, right? You can look at that and you can be like, what a waste that is to gear that technology towards blowing things up, because that technology can literally take you to the stars. It can facilitate space travel. It can facilitate cleaner energy, all that stuff. But what did we decide to use that technology for? Blowing shit up. Like you take the internet and you're like, wow, what a cool invention. This could literally revolutionize mankind as we know it. And what are we doing? We're on TikTok watching naked girls dance, right, Devin? Or half naked?
No,
that wasn't it? Okay.
Devin's not on TikTok anymore.
I'm not on TikTok because my wife told me to avoid that.
I know, I'm teasing, but like that's the truth though. What did we use the internet for? We're watching cat videos. We're watching stupid things that just really don't do anything for anybody other than give you that immediate SpongeBob SquarePants instant reaction and endorphins, or what are they called? Dopamine in your mind of like satisfaction, instead of using the internet for, I don't know, like actually communicating with people,
right?
Or something like
I mean,
that.
it's on the same lines of like, hey, we got the internet was developed so we can have this all-knowing knowledge base that we can tap into at any point at a time. But how many kids are out there are limited on the internet because they are looking at bullshit stuff? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
this is a bit of a tangent, but have you guys heard about? You familiar with Fermi's paradox?
No.
Yeah.
So
Furbies, the
Fermi.
little critters.
Fermi, I think he's an astrophysicist.
No, he was a doll.
Enrique Fermi.
Yeah. He came up with this paradox, which is essentially like, okay, so there's this many stars in the galaxy, which means there must be this many planets in the galaxy, which means that the odds that, you know, it's I can't remember his numbers exactly, but it's like if 1% of all of those had life,
If
or
a
something
quarter
like
of
that.
a percent, yeah.
Yeah, some really small percentage had life. It means there's like hundreds of thousands of planets with life, right? So if there's so many planets out there with life, how come we haven't come across one yet? How come there's no evidence of a planet with life yet? Anyways.
You spent a lot of time in the South, right?
Yes.
how did anyone ever come across people's houses up in some of those hills and stuff? Like you never would ever think someone would be up there. I think that the only reason you come to Earth is to buy like really good ribs and maybe some moonshine is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And other than
point
that,
I-
you don't go
There's
there.
not much of a reason to come. They're waiting for us to like
The point-
not care about the Kardashians
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little bit.
We're like
And that's
Radiator
like-
Springs, basically.
That's like what the movie Contact is all about, right? Like, they find the aliens. The aliens are essentially
Best
like,
movie
you
ever.
guys aren't ready for this yet. Like, you need some more time before you're ready.
Or The Arrival, kind of like that.
The point I wanted to get to was part of
Sorry,
Fermi's
Devin.
paradox is this idea of something called the Great Filter, which is like, here's some reasons why maybe we haven't found aliens yet. And it could be that there's these things called the Great Filters, which might stop people from getting to the point of being able to get that far to be able to see other civilizations out there. So the ideas are like, we might get to a certain point in technology where we all end up killing ourselves, right? We blow up the whole planet with nukes before we can ever get to the point where we could actually find aliens. And everybody does this. It's like a universal phenomenon. Everybody kills themselves before they can find, before
Right.
they can get to technology to find life out there.
right.
Anyways,
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah.
So Furbies came up with all that?
And then they made a doll
Well,
out
and
of it.
along with that, there a little part of that is that they say that it might actually take, like, in order to develop enough rockets and enough energy to leave the planet and go somewhere, you might actually expend so much like pollutants and energy that you actually have to destroy the planet you're on to get off of it, which kind of goes back to this technology thing. It's like, well, we want this technology where it's really free and open. Anyone can put anything out there, but is there like a big cost to doing that? Like,
and that's the point I wanted to get to is maybe one of those great filters is this: you have so much technology and so much information, but that actually turns into everybody wasting their time. And like you're never able to find
Right.
aliens out there because you actually get to.
It's just a spinning wheel in the cage
Yeah.
for the mouse. It's like, man, I've been running forever.
or
but all
they invent the Matrix and they're like, I don't want to go up there. I can just plug in and have whatever I want.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I personally believe aliens have come by Earth and taken a look at the broadcast and just like, yeah, we're
They literally they
we're passing
listen
on this.
They listened to the American Force podcast and they were like,
They
we're
picked
out.
up their moonshine,
done.
they grabbed their rack of ribs, and they went back to civilization.
You're welcome, America. This podcast scared aliens away.
Well, I got to tell you that one of my favorite things, I'm not like one of my favorite science fiction ideas was that, and it was from Battlefield Earth, which is not a great movie at all, but the novel is actually pretty cool.
John Travolta's amazing.
Yeah,
And not in that
not in that movie though. It was like one of the worst movies ever. But the whole concept, the whole beginning of this story started because we sent a golden record in the 70s, really in real life, sent a gold record out, and an alien race found it, and gold was like the most precious metal in the whole universe. And they're like, where did this come from? And on that record, in real life, it said a general description of where Earth is.
Right.
And so that alien race came to Earth, and they're like, hello, we didn't know you were over here, basically. And they destroyed everybody, killed them all, and just came here for gold, basically. Yeah. So anyway, but that was the whole kind of premise of that story that I loved. It was like the reason why it was never found is because why would you go over there?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
probably like some of the hills in the Appalachians. Like, well, why would you go up that canyon? It's like, oh, there's a family that lives up there.
So my
you know?
like tangent off kind of this conversation is like my personal belief there's like going to be some third world war catastrophe coming up, whether
with
that's
aliens.
not maybe with aliens, maybe not. Maybe there's another virus that wipes out in the zombie apocalypse or whatever. But I truly believe there's like some sort of third catastrophe going to come across and decimate like half of humankind.
Is this just because you want better access to American Fork Canyon?
I haven't been up there in years, but I will say yes to that. No, I feel like that's what we're due. Like we're an overpopulated society,
Resources are
worldwide.
going to
Yeah.
become more and more, fought over. Like we've kind of hit a sweet spot where people kind of stay in their territory.
Yeah.
But as populations increase and like things start lacking in one area, or like if China, for example, gets control of major markets, like for example,
Here we go. More
reading.
More
So
duck,
before we
duck,
get
go.
into
Read us
So-
a paragraph.
If aliens do come tomorrow and want to start a World War III, I'm like, okay, that's fine.
We wouldn't start a World War III.
I was just going to say China produces 97% of U.S. antibiotics and 80% of active pharmaceutical ingredients used in American drugs.
Yep.
So interesting.
97%.
Are you done, Phil?
Was that sarcastic?
Yes.
Okay.
Of antibiotics?
Just making sure everyone knows that was sarcastic.
Have you?
Also, I just want to point out, if aliens did come and there was a war, would
That'd
that
be-
be considered a world
Nope.
war?
That
That
would be
becomes
the-
like an
Sorry,
interplanetary.
I don't mean like
Intergalactic
World
war.
War, but like there's some sort of like.
I think that would be the best thing for the U.S.-China relationship.
It would. Yeah, it really would.
Aliens come down and it's
You
like
would come together.
Ying. I don't know any of their leaders. But I'm guessing one might be Ying.
Xi Jinping.
So random question,
Xi
because I
Jinping.
thought of right now. If there was some sort of alien invasion or whatever, would you think that the world would come together and
Yeah.
form some sort of world government?
Yes, I think we would.
for just a minute.
Yeah.
And as soon as it was neutralized, we'd be fighting over their technology.
Unless the aliens came down and were like, we're going to give one country some secrets. then
Canada.
then
then things would freaking...
just
Man, that's optimistic.
Lord of the Flies.
Like for me personally, I don't think we would. I don't think we would come together as like a world government to do this. I think
It depends on how it goes down.
Yeah.
Because if the aliens were smart, they would come down and like infiltrate some country's government and
we hid our technology.
What do you mean,
secrets
if?
to our technology in one of your mountains. Go find it.
and they all need to be blown up with nuclear weapons.
But if they just showed up and it was like a, hey, we're here to battle you, yeah, the world would
well,
come
let's
together.
take Independence Day. We all seen it, right? So aliens come in, whatever. What do you think happened after that? Do you think everybody's still
Independence Day 2. Isn't there a sequel?
Is there
Yeah.
a sequel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happened
And it-
after. Next
and
question.
it was terrible.
I resend my question then.
I'm just kidding.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if something happened like that, like, yeah, sure, we banded together as a world and created some sort of world government or whatever. Do you think that'd be long lasting?
No.
Nope.
No.
So here's something to think about. Imagine you're an advanced alien race coming to the Earth right now and you want to take over. And you see the state of like our politics and our media and all of this. What would be easier? To come down and have a war and risk troops and assets and things like that, or to just infiltrate and cause us to contend with each other until we blow each other up?
And appear to be human.
Like, is
Scrolls.
So-
is
Scrolls.
Google actually...
So Mark Zuckerberg is actually an alien.
Or
He's a lizard.
is
1,000%.
Google so much better than all other search engines because it's alien code that's designed to turn us against
I mean,
each
that
other?
makes sense.
That's actually racist because humans can create that code. So you can't say that. Yeah.
Aliens literally came down from another whatever.
That's Xeno.
Only
they
aliens
came down
could make
and they
the
literally
pyramids.
they came down to Earth and they were like SEO.
colon backslash.
We have this technology SEO.
No, but you make a good point. I feel, to me, if I was an alien coming down, I'm not going to do like an upfront confrontation. Like, I would just say, your society's so fucked up anyways with how things are going. I'm going to infiltrate you.
Here's Google. Merry Christmas.
We
Bye.
have to put an E on this episode now.
Like, let's
Tyler.
pretend.
Yeah.
Let's okay.
Be a scroll in the Marvel universe and impersonate like higher people at like higher ranks and just fuck everything
Okay,
up.
I have an idea. So let's just pretend like you're single out here. I know it takes a minute. I have to get in the mindset, but like
I am
let's say
single.
okay, Tyler, this is for you then. Let's say you go over to some dude's house that you really like and you show up and he's fighting with his boyfriend. Do you just then they're not getting along and it's going nasty. Do you go, "Listen, I'm just going to come back tomorrow."
Just wait outside.
After you destroy each other and then I will, take over from
I mean,
there.
it's all contextual, but like, I wouldn't date somebody who's dating somebody.
What if they were an alien, though?
That is cheating. It was a bad ethical
Let's ask
question. Trent. Oh,
Trent.
iPads.
How many alien prostitutes would you...
So
higher.
many fucking alien prostitutes.
How many alien kids do you have out there, Trent?
Legalize all of them.
I don't fucking know.
Legalize everything.
If we can legalize marijuana because marijuana needs to be legal. That's what he's going to say.
Exactly. I think it should be legal. So, thank you for listening to the American Fort Podcast. We've taken you on a wild ride.
We were 4,000 light years away from Earth, and now you brought us back to this.
Why did we just
Like
stop
us.
this conversation?
Like, subscribe. Well,
Share.
We're about
Comment.
time.
Because Jeff is really drunk right now. And Trent's really drunk
support
right now.
us on Patreon. Instead of buying that Chinese-made toaster that supports child slavery and death, just support us who want to get away from our wives for a
Because
night.
we use American-made
Or Phil,
microphones.
who wants to get away from his wife for a whole vacation.